Greetings, comrades. Welcome to All Power to the People podcast on Grown Folks Talking, Express Yourself Internet Radio via the Huddle Team app. We meet every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We discuss local, national, and global events that impact the material conditions of the people and provide viable solutions. We are here to find those tired of the way their lives are socially constructed. As Panthers, we use dialectic materialism. As Dr. Huey P. Newton stated, power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. From combating the housing crisis to police patrols, we are the vanguard in place to serve our communities. The purpose of this program is to highlight contradictions in the electoral process, which Western culture calls politics. Politics is the struggle for resources. Participating in America's electoral process has only taken resources from the people and handed it to the oligarchs and the professional managerial class that serve them by maintaining the status quo through coercion. We know that power lies with the people, and it is our duty to organize and educate the community so that they can fight for their own liberation. So please, join us every Sunday at 12 p.m. You can join by downloading the Huddle Team app, join online, or call in. The app and joining online is free, but if you call in, standard messaging rates may apply. Links to the show will be provided in the caption. This is General Secretary Patience of the new Afrikan Black Panther Party, NABPP North. All power to the people.
All power to the people. So let me start over. Let me start over everything I just said. Welcome to All Power to the People on Grown Folks Talking, Express Yourself. Internet radio via Team Huddle app. This is not a show to entertain you. We're not here to entertain you, to shoe shuffle. Nah, we're not here to do none of that. This show is to find people that are ready to organize to change the conditions in our community. The people that are tired of the world that they're living in, and they want to do something about it. That's what this show is about. We cast a wide net to find people that are really serious and are sincere in changing the lives in our communities. We go back and listen to people like Carter G. Woodson, luminaries like Carter G. Woodson, because these people have already done the work. And the first duty of a revolutionary is to be educated. Who else should we listen to other than people like Carter G. Woodson? If you don't agree with him, if you don't listen to him, there's no conversation that we can't even have about anything. But we're almost done. This is chapter 16. We got 2 more chapters left. I'm thinking about where we're going to go next from here. I got a few ideas. I'm going to run them by you. But we're about to start right now. We're going to get right to it. This is chapter 16. Like I said, we have 2 more chapters left. This is almost done. If you've been here from chapter 1, this book is deep. This book is deep. It's like he's right here, right now. Everything that he's saying in this book is, you can apply it to right now. You're going to see even this chapter.
Chapter 16, the new type of professional man required. Negroes should study for the professions for all sane reasons that members of another race should go into these lines of endeavor, and also on account of the particular call to serve the lowly of their race. In the case of the law, we should cease to make exceptions because of the possibilities for failure resulting from prejudice against the Negro lawyer and the lack of Negro business enterprises to require his services. Negroes must become like English gentlemen who study the law of the land, not because they intend to practice the profession, but because every gentleman should know the law. In the interpretation of the law by the courts, too, all the rights of the Negroes in this country are involved, and a large number of us must qualify for this important service. We may have too many lawyers of the wrong kind, but we have not our share of the right kind. The Negro lawyer has tended to follow in the footsteps of the average white practitioner and has not developed the power which he could acquire if he knew more about the people whom he should serve and the problems they have to confront. These things are not law in themselves, but they determine largely whether or not the Negro will practice law and the success he will have in this profession. The failure to give attention to these things...
I'll stop it right there for a second. Like I always say, you have to remember, you have to put yourself in the time period that he's talking about. And he's saying the only way that these lawyers, these professional people are going to be successful is if they work with the people, if they serve the people, they serve their community. That's what he's saying right there in that little minute and some change. That was 1920s, 1930s. He wasn't here for the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s to see how the system was going to co-opt those same people into the system. Carter G. Woodson wasn't here for that. Remember, this is 30, 40, 50 years after slavery. Right after slavery. He was born during slavery. And he's writing about what we were doing right after slavery, how people were surviving. And like going to school, education was pushed for people to get to understand the society and the climate that they're in, to understand the laws. Because at that point, they hadn't had 100 years. It's been 100 years now. We see after 100 years how those laws and how those courts treat not just black people, but everybody. Treat people that are poor, that don't have the means to be able to buy their way through it. See, but he didn't, back then in the 20s, this was all early. I mean, but you're going to get into that the more that he speaks.
Has often meant the downfall of many a Negro lawyer. There are, moreover, certain aspects of law to which...
Oh, excuse me, my bad. What I wanted to say was, he's not here to see how the system has brought these people in. Like, you're able to work in the government. They're able to work with lawyers today. The professional managerial Negro today does not have to serve the people to make money. They can make their money through the system, working for the system. The same institutions that he's saying, that Carter G. Woodson is saying, are racist and are oppressing the people. He didn't live long enough to go through the civil rights movement to see how these lawyers can make a good living working for the system that's oppressing the people.
Which the white man could hardly address himself, but to which the Negro should direct special attention. Of unusual importance to the Negro is the necessity for understanding the misrepresentations in criminal records of Negroes and race distinctions in the laws of modern nations. These matters require systematic study of the principles of law and legal procedure, and in addition thereto, further study of legal problems as they meet the Negro lawyer in the life which he must live. This offers the Negro Law School an unusual opportunity. Because our lawyers do not give attention to these problems, they often fail in a crisis. They are interested in the race and want to defend its cause. The case, however, requires not only the unselfish spirit they sometimes manifest, but much more understanding of the legal principles involved. Nothing illustrates this better than the failure of one of our attorneys to measure up in the case brought up by the United States Supreme Court from Oklahoma to test the validity of the exclusion of Negroes from Pullman College.
I have to say it. I can't just let it go ahead without explaining it. The way he's talking about these professional black people, there's kind of a naiveness there. There's kind of naiveness there, thinking that these people have ever cared about the masses of the people. These professional black people, the ones that have always tried to assimilate into the system, the ones that have been indoctrinated by all these schools that want to go climb into these classes or want to move closer to whiteness. Like, to think those people like go into those spaces to uplift the masses of the people is to be naive. Even then, even back then, because they had their own groups. They had like, I forgot what book I was reading, but it's like the blue veins, the light skinned one, the one that were light skinned enough to pass. I mean, because like all race, class, colorism, all of it plays a part in it. Even the schools that they went to, they separated themselves from the masses. They looked down at the masses. Every generation since we've been on these shores. I mean, so I disagree with that. I disagree with him on that. I mean, it's like the way he's saying it, it seems like he's saying it like these intellectuals, these professional, managerial black people that's working for all these institutions of white supremacy, they're like the way he's explained, like they're doing it for the betterment of the masses. And I've never seen that. That has never represented itself. And if anybody's here, if anybody want to tell me when that they've seen that in the history, in our history, they could go ahead and say so. You could go ahead and speak. But I've never seen it. And today it's like they're the same way. They're selfish now. Hey, look, man, lawyers got bills too. They care about their bills. They care about their time. Their time is important to them. They bill their time. They're not going out here to come work for people that don't have no money to try to solve their cases. That's not how they're working. If anything, they're trying to get a job right away inside the system because that guarantees them money for them to pay their bills while they probably try to work on their own private practice. But even when they get their private practice, they got to pay their bills. I understand. I understand the reality we live in, but we must accept that reality. If we want to change the reality, we must accept it. That we are all on the plantation. That just because they're lawyers, they went to Harvard, whatever school they went to, they're one of us. They have to accept that. See, but I don't believe they're going to accept that. I don't believe they're going to commit class suicide. No, I really don't. So the efforts here is not to try to change those people's minds. That is not the efforts here. Try to change that class, those class of people. No. The advice that I'm listening to from Carter G. Woodson is you have to produce these people. You have to produce lawyers and doctors that are going to be worried about the people in the community. You have to produce them. That means from kindergarten, from preschool, you are working with them on every single day of their life to get them to understand their purpose. That's different. When somebody comes out 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, and they understand their purpose is to serve their community. That's different from going out trying to get somebody that's been indoctrinated for 25, 30, 40 years, indoctrinated into being selfish, individualistic, and a capitalist, a consumer, trying to get that person to change who they are, to change their stripes. That's impossible. That's almost impossible. And the only way it really happens is if that person wants it to happen, if they're looking for it to happen. That's how you could change anybody. But going around thinking you're going to change people and make them more enlightened because they just don't know. When they do know, they're going to figure out how, when they go to the other side, when they listen to you and they do what you're talking about doing, they're not going to be able to work at that job at the school. They're not going to be able to be a prosecutor. They're not going to be able to be a public defendant if they really start fighting for the people. They're going to start to understand and see the contradictions. And they're going to choose to pay their bills. That's the world we live in. That's how lawyers move today. The lawyers that I know. I don't know any lawyers. I know no lawyers. I know no lawyers in our communities taking cases for free, pro bono lawyers. If anybody know any lawyers in Newark, New Jersey, that's taking cases out here for free, pro bono, working with the people in the community, or a lawyer that's serving the community,
and that's willing to go against the city and politicians.
That's willing to go against the city and the politicians in the city, that's ready to go against the whole system. If you know that lawyer, let me know. I don't know him. I don't know none of those professional people in our community. And that's what Carter G. Woodson is saying. We have to have these people that care about us. Their purpose in becoming a lawyer is for the people. You have to have those people if you want to change the conditions in your community. If you don't have them, you got to produce them. We have to produce them. We have to. Like, I don't want to talk about my own family, but like when they go into school, when we send them out into the world, we're giving them a directive. This is what we need in the struggle. The children that we're working with, the children that we've been working with for the last, what? How many years?
20, 30,
I don't think we've been doing this for 30 years. Yo, see, what up? All the children that we've been working with, we're giving them a purpose. You need to go learn this. I don't care if it's a mechanic. We need mechanic shops. We need doctors. Doctors that will take care of the people. Not doctors that will just go by what the politicians tell them to do, what the government tell them to do. They'll really care about the people. And if you listen to Carter G. Woodson, you're going to be successful. If you care about the people, you work for the people, you serve the people will take care of you. They would. Everybody catching cases out here. If there was a lawyer out here in Newark that worked with people, they will eat. Everybody catching cases.
The same criticism may be made of the segregation case of the District of Columbia brought before this highest tribunal by another Negro attorney. In both of these cases, the lawyers started wrong and therefore ended wrong. They lacked the knowledge to present their cases properly to the court. Our lawyers must learn that the judges are not attorneys themselves, for they have to decide on the merits of what is presented to them.
You hear what he just said? Remember, this is only 10 minutes. We ain't going to be here that long. But you hear what he just said? Like, the lawyers have to learn the cases, that the judges are going to listen to the merit of the case. But in a few seconds from now, he's going to contradict that, because he's going to say they're doing everything not to listen to the merit of the case. So it's this double consciousness, these contradictions that they live with. Because you got to understand, he was in the managerial class. He worked in these universities. He worked for the government. Even though he wrote the book, you have to understand, like, at some level, we are all compromised. We have to admit that. Because he's saying right now that the same judges that he say are trying to find every way not to go with the people, but serve the corporations and the interests of the state. He's about to... Let me play it, man. Let me play it.
It's not the business of the judges to amend their pleadings or decide their cases according to their good intentions. Certainly, such generosity cannot be expected from prejudiced courts, which are looking for every loophole possible to escape from a frank decision on the rights of Negroes guaranteed by the Constitution.
You hear that? You hear that? They're looking for every way not to do it. So it don't matter how you present your case. It don't matter what you do. If you understand the doctrine, it doesn't matter what you do. This system, their institutions, and that's something that we have to talk about. Because when people say the system, they don't understand the system is institutions. Institutions that's been put in place by those with the power to maintain power. So when you're talking about we must change the system, and then you're talking about going inside that institution to go change it, and they already have it designed. They've molded it to be able to deal with people like you. They've had generations of training. There's been thousands of you coming in there trying to change what they're doing in there, and they know exactly how to deal with you. You believe like you can go in this system. You could create your own party to go inside this system to change. It doesn't work like that. It shows a lack of political consciousness. That's what it shows. But you can be so arrogant that you won't accept the truth or accept reality. And that's the cognitive dissonance that people that are compromised live with. You're gonna see it in this show. I'm going to prove it to you. Even with him, that's just a small glimpse. He's saying that our professional, our lawyers need to learn the system, need to learn the laws, need to learn how all of this, the doctors, how all of this before they go into courts. And then at the same breath, he's saying these courts are racist and prejudiced. They're trying to find all kind of ways not to listen to you. So why are you going into them? Why is the education, why is the education of a Negro learning to go into them? That sounds to me like the miseducation of a Negro. That's educating themselves on a system, on a game that is rigged, that they know that the other side is trying to make them lose. The table is designed for them to lose. That's weird. I don't agree with that.
These matters require advanced.
Like I said, if you agree with him, if you have something to say, you'll chime in. Or if you agree with me, chime in. Whoever you agree with, chime in.
Study and painstaking research. But our lawyers, as a rule, are not interested in this sort of mental exercise. The Negro medical schools have had much better opportunity than the few Negro law schools which have functioned in the professional preparation of Negroes. On account of the racial contact required by white physicians who are sometimes unwilling to sustain this relation to Negroes, the Negro physicians and dentists have a better chance among their people than the Negro lawyers, and the demand for the services of the former assures a larger income than Negro lawyers are accustomed to earn. But in spite of this better opportunity, Negro medical institutions and their graduates have done little more than others to solve the peculiar problems confronting the Negro race. Too many Negroes go into medicine and dentistry merely for selfish purposes, hoping thereby to increase their income and spend it in joyous living. They have the ambition to fine automobiles, to dress handsomely, and to figure conspicuously in society. The practice of these professions among poor Negroes yields these results. Why not be a physician or dentist then? Too many of our physicians are like the one whom the author recently visited in New York City. "When I heard you coming up the stairs," said he, "I began to feel glad, for I was sure that you were another patient from whom I might extract at least $2 for a prescription." Yet
he's explaining how these, even at that early date, the people that was going into these managerial spaces were only going there for themselves, to buy a nice car, nice home, nice clothes, whatever, to climb the social ladder. They were not going in there for the people. So it's like but it is what it is. I told the contradictions are there. But I want to go to something real quick, because he was talking about law just now. When I speak, I am the chairman of the party, of the Black Panther Party. It may seem like I'm being hyperbolic in the things that I'm saying, or I'm exaggerating the things that I'm saying. So I have to go out and we look for people that you would call mainstream, and we bring the same thing that we're saying, that I'm saying, that the Black Panther Party is saying, that Carter G. Woodson saying, that other people have said, other luminaries have said, Malcolm X. We bring these people for them to say it out of their own mouths. So we're going to go, Breonna Joy Gray. She worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign. She used to be on Rising. She has her own podcast. It's called Bad Faith Podcast. She's a lawyer. But she's interviewing, I don't know if you would call him her mentor, call him her mentor, but she's interviewing a Harvard professor, a white guy, a white Harvard professor, and he's explaining to her. No, let me go to let her introduce him. Nah, I'm gonna let her introduce him first.
Faithful, as it were. I am so excited.
That's Breonna Joy Gray.
A guest on today whom I've alluded to innumerable times as one of the most formidable, foundational professors in my life, someone whose teaching impacted my political development perhaps more than any other kind of single moment in my educational career. It's Professor John Hanson. He's the Alan A. Stone Professor of Law and Director of the Systemic Justice Project at Harvard Law School. Welcome to Bad Faith Podcast, Professor Hanson.
You heard the credentials. Let me bring it back one more time. I want to hear the last part. I missed it again.
Professor John Hanson. He's the Alan A. Stone Professor of Law and Director of the Systemic Justice Project at Harvard Law.
Systemic Justice Director. professor of law at Harvard.
School. Welcome to Bad Faith Podcast, Professor Hansen.
Welcome, Professor Hansen. Now, this is Professor Hansen. Like, he gives, like, on this next clip, right, he has a whole, I don't want to, you know what, let me play it. I see how it goes.
Well, thank you for that introduction, a second introduction, and that summary of your experience at the law school. It's not uncommon.
Errol, I need you to still remember, look, we're still listening to Carter G. Woodson, chapter 16, where we just stopped at in the minute mark. I think I was like in the 5-minute mark. He was talking about switching over by doctors and stuff, but he just finished talking about the law, and he's saying that black professionals, the professional class, they should go into this space of like law, and they have to learn the law, because by them learning it, they're going to be able to serve their people. I mean, but what they're about to say contradicts that. And we, like I said, this was in 1920s when Carter G. Woodson wrote this book. We're in 2024. This over 100 years later. Our analysis should be different from Carter G. Woodson. I mean, so like when you going back, you go back in time now. They've had all these cases for you to be able to have an analysis and make an analysis of everything from 1920 to 2024. And it can't be the same. It gotta be disagreements.
Although, unlike yours, a lot of students come thinking they want to go to law school and pursue justice, and then find themselves going into corporate law. In terms of the framing of these issues of race, racial inequality, and systemic injustice, one reason why the language is helpful that I provide is not that it's better language than otherwise is out there. I think some people say these things much better and have been thinking about them longer than I have. It's that I give sort of a complementary alternative story in my progressive approach, where my experience was born of sort of a deep dive into tobacco documents back in the 1990s, and then a very thorough immersion in mind sciences and social psychology, where I picked up language and
So not only did he work in the with the cigarettes, because when cigarettes was killing people were walking around with no lungs. When the tobacco company was killing people, he was working during that period. This is like you said, in the early 90s. That impacted how he saw the law for him to teach her, probably like 2000-something, 2005, 6, for him to teach her then. He said that impacted how he taught, and also sociology and mind sciences that he taught, not sociology, psychology. The mind sciences, the classes that he took to understand people, gave him the language to be able to reach her in the classroom. That's what he was explaining just now.
Concepts that then I sort of use in my class, and that's some of what I think you were picking up. So I appreciate what you have done with that language in your work, and made it even much more accessible than I could. As to the question about what did I think when I saw the headlines and some of the reports on what was happening in East Palestine.
East Palestine, train. A train went through East Palestine. Something happened. It was an accident, and the company decided to blow up a train or something like that. Now the whole East Palestine, that whole area, a huge radius in that area is now polluted. The people down there are sick. They're getting cancers. Everything's going on. You see, but you don't see that in the media. They're not talking about it. It's been going on for over a year. And guess what those people voted for? They didn't vote for Biden. Political education. Because when people go through things like that, they're not going to support the people that's in power. And he never went down. Biden never went to see them people when it was going on. He probably went later, probably during the election. Kamala, they probably went later. But when it was going on, they didn't go down there. They were talking about what's that war, Ukraine. They were talking about sending money to Ukraine, while those people down there in East Palestine was down there suffering, children dying, water, everything contaminated. But that's what he's talking about. He's talking about how the people did the law or whatever, and what he thought they should have did. Those people down there that was affected by the law. So that's what he's talking about when he said East Palestine.
It was a pretty automatic reaction that pairs with or responds to sort of the tort law class that you took that I believe at the time, Brianna, culminated in sort of an overview of a case called Indiana Harbor Belt versus American Cyanamid, which is a railroad toxic spill case. And in it, a very famous, probably the most famous 20th century judge, the most cited 20th century judge, held for the chemical company that they would not, in effect, be strictly liable. And I won't go into the details of that. Perhaps later I can. But my reaction was strict liability. There should be strict liability. It was just my quick thought, which is my reaction after many years of seeing large corporations across many contexts avoiding liability, avoiding accountability because of the way the law is, as you put it, rigged. But if I may, I'd love to actually.
You already just said, I should put it, the law is rigged. Like that's not something that Africa's saying, the Black Panther Party is saying. That's a Harvard professor. She's a Harvard graduate. She's saying the law is rigged. You see, like once I say the law is rigged, I'm not going to come back later to talk about putting somebody through the justice system. Like we got to snitch on in our communities and go put people through this legal system. Like this legal system should be able to judge our communities. I don't believe that. If I believe it's rigged, there's something wrong with me. If I think it's okay for our people to go through this system, for this system to be able to govern us, that means there's something wrong with me, because there's a contradiction there. I can't sit here like Brianna said, because like if I saw her to her face, I would tell her she's compromised, because she could sit here and have this conversation and still go on the next day to talk about the legal system, how people should go through the legal system, how laws and all. We don't have laws here, but we're gonna get to all of that. We're gonna get to all of that.
I'd love to, if I can, try to give you an overview of three years of law school that you went through.
Please.
Now listen to this. He's about to give you 3 years of law school. See, because when you go to college, like the first couple of classes you having, you just going through the basic classes. It takes a couple of years for you to get to like what you're really there for you to understand. So he's about to basically wrap up a law degree in a few minutes, which they could really do. You don't need to go to school for 4 years to get a law degree. But listen to him. He's about to wrap up the whole 3 years. He's about to wrap it up in a few minutes.
Everyone should have the privilege, absolutely.
So this is an hour-long, roughly, podcast, so I think I can get this down to, a few minutes. But I mean, as you know, the deal with law school is that we can charge a lot of money and bring people for several years to give up other things they might be doing because law is really complex, and it's it's got processes and procedures and a whole bunch of doctrines, and then any number of modes of interpretation that you have to learn. And then there's the kind of more realistic assessment that steps back and says what's really going on. And so there's legal theories. All of that is sort of part of what legal education entails. But if you look very basically at what law school is, it's the overview of doctrines that are not accidental. The doctrine.
The law school is the overview of doctrines that are not accidental. Not accidental. Those doctrines that the judges, the lawyers, everybody must follow, everybody in the courtroom must adhere to. These are not accidental. What does that mean if they're not accidental? That means somebody put them there. Somebody created them. It's a social construct, a design by somebody. Who? Who are these people that put it there? Let's see what he say.
That are taught in law school were designed to be taught in the late 1800s, and
all this stuff was designed to be taught in the late 1800s. The doctrines that you learned in law school that were taught by a certain group of people were designed in the late 1800s. That's when Carnegie, right around the same time, right after the 1800s, 1920. That's when this book was written. When it came out. I think it came out in 1930. But like this book was written around that same period. 40 years, 50 years away from that when the doctrines were put in place? For what reason? What did they put them doctrines in place for? Let's see if you get to that.
Have been taught more or less since then, and they are doing something. And it's worth just very simply sort of giving an overview to those of your listeners who are not lawyers or law students.
What are they doing?
In your first year of classes,
You're going somewhere else, but I want to stay there. What are they doing? What are those doctrines and that or the precedents, or what are they doing? Go ahead, guess. Exactly, protecting property owner, protecting those with the power. That's what those doctrines do. Protect those in power. Remember, we're reading Carter G. Woodson. He's talking about the lawyers. The lawyers had to go to school. We should get lawyers that understand the law so they could be able to serve the people. When they go learn that law and they go inside that courtroom, those doctrines are there to serve a certain group of people. That's still today. Let me continue.
what we call 1L. You were required to take, as generations before you had been, courses on property, contract, tort law, and criminal law. There are some others that have been added since, but those were the basics. And if you think about what those courses do, essentially they start with the premise of law, which is that we are not going to talk about systems. We're not going to talk about structure.
We're not going to talk about systems. That's what the law, those are the doctrines. This is how the law, the legal system has been constructed, been designed. We're not going to talk about systems. We're not going to talk about structures. We're not going the stuff that impact people's lives. We're not going to talk about that in the courtroom.
We're not going to talk about history. We're not going
to talk about history.
Talk about distribution or power or racial prejudices.
Power, racial prejudices. This is what you learn when you go in there, when you go in and you want to be a lawyer and you learn these doctrines. This is how the legal system is set up. They're not going to talk about everything that real people deal with every day. So what are they going to base it on? What are they going to base it on?
Any of the context and circumstances that we know in real life are shaping what happens between people and groups in our society. All of that is going to be erased in our analysis, and instead we're going to talk about doctrines, and those doctrines are premised fundamentally on a conception of the human being and what moves an individual person. Now, this is a fabricated psychology that law has adopted and that is,
It's a fabricated psychology that law has adopted. The system itself, the institution of the judicial system, has adopted a psychology to justify not using what causes people to do whatever got them inside that courtroom. They've chosen a system to say we're going to blame the person, not the institutions that are put in place to be able to control that person, to guide that person, that's supposed to serve that person, that failed them. We're not going to use none of that. We're only going to judge that person by themselves. So you got one person here that grew up in the ghetto, that grew up in the hood, that grew up in a broken home. There was nobody home to feed them, nobody to take care of them. Then you got one person here that grew up in the suburbs. They had the home, they had the after-school program, they had the tutoring, they had all that stuff. Those two people walk up in the courtroom. You're not supposed to use none of their background in that courtroom. They're just supposed to come in there as individuals. The person in the suburbs come in there with a lawyer, with everything, and understand how the courtroom works. They got everything behind them. The person from the hood come in there just by themselves with cuffs on, and with the dumbest lawyer that the courtroom, the state will find, that got like 500 cases to handle, to go up there to go defend them. And we say this system is just. And they're going to face a judge that's trying to find every way possible to convict them. This is the system that we're in. That's the system that they're explaining, that this man is explaining. Hanson is explaining, and what's her name? Brianna Joy Gray. She went to school and learned all of this. She knows this. She knows this.
common in our society, which is that what happens to a person or a group is a consequence of something about them, something about their personalities, their preferences, their strengths, their weaknesses, something about them that leave us concluding that whatever happens to them is what should happen to them, is as it ought to be. So if it's a good thing,
So that's the legal system. That's how, when you go to law school, this is what you go to school to go learn. This is how the system is going to operate. So it doesn't matter if you went to schools that were managed poorly, that have failed for generation after generation after generation, then from kindergarten to you was 18, you went to those schools, and those institutions failed you. You could barely read. You can't read. You're in a society where the air is, the air is polluted. That's affecting you. The water is poisoned. Because what happens when you drink lead water? There are consequences to drinking lead water, to drinking poison water, to breathing in this this toxic air. To living in a society where danger is around the corner. Crime is high. Poverty high. You're not eating well. You're not being educated well. Like, how can you tell me that person and somebody that grew up in a suburb that had every single advantage in life, those two people can walk up in the same courtroom and you say you're going to judge them based on dumb? Like, you're going to blame everything on dumb. So you starve it and you see food. You go in and try to go get the food, steal the food to eat because you're hungry. That person comes to court. You're going to blame dumb. You shouldn't have went and stole it. You should do anything else but go get that food that's right there. See, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with a society like that. Pantherism does not agree with a society like that. We don't believe we should live like that. We don't believe people should be outside, sleeping outside, while there's a house right there, boarded up. The person that owned it lives somewhere else, in a big mansion somewhere. And there are people outside sleeping outside, and there's a house right there. I don't agree with a society like that. I don't want to live in a society, in a community like that. That's why we organize. But they know this. He know this. Brianna Joy Gray know this. Yo, let me finish this. Let me finish this.
If it's a good thing, then they deserve it. If it's a bad thing, then they deserve that. And it's the essence of, this notion of a meritocracy and so forth. But all of that is built into the assumptions of law before you even start talking about anything. Like, before you talk about any problem or any case, that's just baked in.
The just world hypothesis.
The just world hypothesis, exactly. And so what happens is just. That's right. And so that you've referenced a bunch of social psychological studies that people tend to imagine the world is just, and they interpret it and provide stories that affirm that. Okay, that's a lot of wind up to start talking about the cases. Should I pause, or am I doing okay?
No, I think that's great.
So that's what Carter G. Woodson was telling us. We have to go into schools. We have to learn these doctrines, learn all this stuff to be able to serve our people better. Okay, I understand that. Yeah, we have to go in there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you learn. These systems, the way that they operate to try to find every way not to side with you, but to side with power, side with the corporations. Whoever has the more power in that dynamic, that's what these systems are here to serve. That's what he just said. That's a Harvard professor. I don't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. She graduated from Harvard. They both understand that. Let me go to this next clip real quick. Let me go to the next clip.
Going back to this just world hypothesis that you were talking about before, I remember you making the following argument, that change happens in the world basically when basically the just world hypothesis fails, when inequality and injustice and the way things are shaking out are so acute that we can no longer pretend that when bad things happen, it's because people are bad, and when good things happen, it's because they are meritorious and it was deserving. And then we have a kind of a social movement. But that's so much of what we get in advertising and in politics in between those times is stuff that we're being fed to make us acquiesce to the conditions that we're living in. Am I remembering that sort of correctly?
So good. It's so good. I'm going to give, Dean Scholar Prize.
Yeah, she remembered it real well. That's what he taught her. That's what he taught her. That everything around us is an illusion. That we're not really free. I mean, and like it's going to go on until the people can't deal with it no more. Until the people fight back. That's when it's going to change. She knows that. She's smiling. But to me, I find this as evil. I find this as psychopathic. Because there will be another interview. I seen her in another interview talking to Chris Hedges. And she said she refused to believe that the system is this broken and this corrupt. As if she didn't go to these classes and learn these things, that this is how the system works. But why? Why can't she be those two different people? Because she's compromised. It's called cognitive dissonance. I mean, she knows that the system is flawed. The system not only flawed, it's oppressive, it's corrupt. She understands that. But she will vote for a candidate. She will put up candidates talking about go vote for this person when she knows the system inherently is corrupt. I don't understand that. And if I saw her, I would ask her the same question to her face. And what she kept telling Chris Hedges when I saw in the interview, she kept saying, I can't accept it. I know you can't. Because then that means you have to come into the communities to come do some work in the communities. You can't be sitting up there in that studio. That ain't it. If you really call yourself a revolutionary or activist, you have to really get out here in these streets. You have to give up that job. You have to commit class suicide. And she's not ready to commit class suicide. That's why she cannot accept it. I get it. But these people can't be our leaders. They can't speak for the people. It's either they're cowards, they're too scared to speak for the people, or they're bought off, they're compromised. But you cannot speak to the people or for the people. I mean, but let me go on. Let's finish Carter G. Woodson.
Chapter 16. The news then. To find out, but in spite of this better opportunity, Negro medical institutions and their graduates have done little more than others to solve the peculiar problems confronting the Negro race. Too many.
Right now he's talking about black doctors and like even with all these opportunities that they have a better chance to be able to, black doctors, black nurses, he's saying they have a better chance to serve our communities than the lawyers. But even though they have a better chance, they haven't done so. I mean, they haven't done so because the money is in serving in these institutions that are oppressing the people. What year was that? Was that in the 19-something, the syphilis thing? The syphilis, I could, somebody Google that. You could Google it up. But the whole syphilis experiment, when they were just shooting up black men with syphilis, I think it was around this whole period. Like, they understand. These black nurses, these black doctors understand what they're doing, the spaces that they're in are not there to function or to help the people. They understand that. But like I said, they're trying to make money. They're trying to pay bills. I mean, and he know that. Carter G. Woodson know that. He alluded to that earlier, that they only go into these professions to get rich. I mean, but we can't serve our people if we go into this industry just to get rich. You can't do both. You can't serve both masters.
Negroes go into medicine and dentistry merely for selfish purposes, hoping thereby to increase their income and spend it in joyous living. They have the ambition to fine automobiles, to dress handsomely, and to figure conspicuously in society. The practice of these professions among poor Negroes yields these results. Why not be a physician or dentist then? Too many of our physicians are like the one whom the author recently visited in New York City. When I heard you coming up the stairs, said he, I began to feel glad, for I was sure that you were another patient from whom I might extract at least $2 for a prescription. Yet one would wonder how that physician could prosper in his profession, for he had no special equipment for the practice of any kind of advanced phases of medicine. About all he could do was to look at the patient's tongue, feel his pulse, ask him a few questions, write a prescription, and collect the fee. The apparatus required for the modern treatment of serious maladies he did not have and seemed to have no ambition to possess. The Negroes of today are very much in need of physicians who, in their professional work, will live up to what they are taught in school and will build upon their foundation by both experience and further training. In his segregated position in the ghetto, the Negro health problem presents more difficulties than that of the whites who are otherwise circumstanced. The longevity of the Negro depends in part upon the supply of Negro physicians and nurses who will address themselves unselfishly to the solution of this particular problem. Since the Negro...
Our survival as a people depend largely on our nurses and doctors, people that we produce that are going to look after the benefits of the people.
Chairman Africa, can I say something, please?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
Thank you so much, sir. How are you?
Outstanding.
Yeah, the Tuskegee experiment began in 1932 at a time when there was no known cure for the syphilis, a contagious venereal disease. So it happened in 1932. But just to add to what you're saying, it was a black woman, okay, that they got to recruit these people, okay? She was a known doctor or something, but it was a black face that got these men to sign up for that experiment. It wasn't like, they used her as a proxy because they know they couldn't just go into the, the black community and say, come on, let's just try this. So they thought this woman convinced them that this was going to be much needed for the race and, whatever. So I want people, because we had I forgot what program I was on, that they really gave the 411. So what good did that do? They used our face to bring these people in, these men in, and for this to happen.
Oh, power. No, but it's like, and that's why it is important to go back and listen to this, because that happened in 1932. This book was written in 1930, and he's telling us we have to raise our own doctors, our own lawyers, our own nurses for the survival of our people. He's saying we have to produce these people. Like, he's not saying we should send them to all these white schools, these government schools, for them to push them out. He's saying we must build the institutions to produce these people. You must raise them from children to understand, you're going to college, you're going to school to be able to get a doctorate degree to come back and serve the people. Everybody here got a job. Everybody here, like, people got insurances. They will be able to sustain you. If you organize, if you do it in the right way, we can do this. And he's saying that is the only way we're going to survive. That was like 2 years after he wrote the book, The Tuskegee Experiment. That went on that whole time. Nobody probably knew what was going on for decades. But now we sit here in 2024 and we see what happened. That was 2 years after he said that. Everything else that we went through, the AIDS epidemic, everything that we went through as a community, because when it hit everybody else, when they hit us, it's different. They blamed us. They said it came from Africa. They still don't really know where that AIDS came from, because it came from them. Then now we sitting here, we just went through this stuff where everybody had to take needles. Where are the black doctors that we have produced to be able to speak to us and tell us, like, listen, this disease is going to be here forever. This disease was created in a lab, and tell us how for us to survive it. Where are those doctors at? We don't have them. The only doctors we got are the ones that work for the government, that work in their hospitals, that work in their institutions. The only thing they do is come tell us they're going to give us cheeseburgers, they're going to give us gift cards if we go take the needle. They're not here to advise us. That's where we at in 2024. We still haven't produced our own doctors. We haven't produced anything. This generation, this time period right now, this is the time period where we start building. No more talking. Enough books been written. Enough first person this, first person that, first person that. We had enough of all of that. At some point, you got to draw the line. It's time to start building our own institutions. Trying to go to this to try to find, begging dumb, asking dumb to have our children. Our wives get sick, our children get sick, we take our children to dumb. Even though when we know that system is for profit. The system is for profit. They're not here to keep you healthy. keeping you healthy hits their bottom line. We know that is a system that's in place. So why are we not trying to create our own system? So we cast a wide net to find people that are ready to do that kind of work.
Negroes are forced into undesirable situations and compelled to inhabit germ-infested districts. They cannot escape ultimate extermination if our physicians do not help them to work out a community health program which will provide for the Negroes some way to survive. Negro medical schools and their graduates must do more preaching of the necessity for improving conditions which determine health and eradicate disease. A large number of physicians and nurses must be trained, and new opportunities for them to practice must be found. This can be done by turning out better products from these schools and the extension of hospitals among Negroes who have been so long neglected. In this campaign, however, the Negro physicians must supply the leadership, and others must join with them in these efforts. From medical schools, too, we must have Negroes with a program of medical research. Today, the world is inclined to give attention to the health of the Negro, since unsanitary conditions of the race will mean the loss of health among the whites. Philanthropists, however, hardly know how to proceed or which way to go because they have so long neglected the Negroes that they do not know how to provide wisely for them, and the Negro physicians themselves have failed to give adequate attention to these conditions. Negro medical students have not directed sufficient attention to the antebellum background of the Negro who, still under that influence, indulges in superstitious and religious practices which impede the progress of medicine among them. One would be surprised to know the extent to which primitive medicine is practiced among American Negroes today. Often in the rural districts they seldom see a physician. The midwife and the herb doctor there control the situation. The greatest problem now awaiting solution is the investigation of the differential resistance of races to disease. What are the diseases of which Negroes are more susceptible than whites? What are the diseases of which the whites are more susceptible than Negroes? The Negro escapes yellow fever and influenza, but the white man dies. The white man withstands syphilis and tuberculosis fairly well, but the Negro afflicted with these maladies easily succumbs. The questions offer an inviting field of research for Negro medical students. While we hear much about medicine, law, and the like, their importance must not be unduly emphasized. Certainly men should not crowd into these spheres to make money, but all professions...
I want to show you something. I think I remember where we was at, but I want to show you something. 2 days ago, New York police released this video. They killed this brother right here. They had him in custody, and they was taking him from one jail to the other, and they killed him. Hey, Muta, you seen this video? You see the video already?
I seen it. I didn't see the video because I don't like to see murder, but I know I'm familiar with it.
All power to the people. I'm like everything that Carter G. Woodson was talking about, for us to get our own lawyers, for us to get our own doctors. Yo, there's a nurse that's in here. All of this happened December 9th when they were transferring him. The 10th, early the 10th on that morning, he was dead. Today is what, the 30th? It took them, like, they let the video go like 2 days ago. So they've had this video all day. They've been sitting on this video. But I'm going to let the video speak for itself.
Shocking body camera footage released showing corrections officers beating a handcuffed inmate to death. We want to warn you, the video is graphic. New York's Attorney General shared the video yesterday and called what happened shocking and disturbing. Here's NBC's Sam Brock.
Newly released shocking video shows these correctional officers fatally beating an inmate, Robert Brooks. The footage, blurred and redacted by state authorities, shows officers repeatedly kicking and punching Brooks in the legs and chest and trying to jam an object down his throat. New York's Attorney General says Brooks was pronounced dead December 10th, a day after these interactions with correctional officers was recorded.
I do not take lightly the release of this video.
James says the video doesn't have audio because the officers involved failed to properly activate their body cameras. It begins with Brooks being carried inside, handcuffed.
I'm showing this because when we read in the book, Miseducation of a Negro by Carter G. Woodson, he's telling us how we have to get our own lawyers, get our own doctors. There's a reason for that. This is how the system works. Like, you see how they're grabbing them, how they got the cuffs on them, how they're dragging them through that space. You see how this is how the system works. This is, if you ever been in prison, you ever been locked up before, you understand this is normal, routine behavior. This is nothing new. Hey, Muta, you been locked up before. Did they beat up people in there? Did the police beat people up in there?
Constantly for no reason.
Have you ever been abused by the police before?
In the manner that I've had numerous things taken and thrown away of my property, but not physical abuse. But I've seen physical abuse with my own eyes.
All power to the people. Like the police, the sheriff department, the upper heads, Tisha James, whatever, all of them, they're going to try to act like this is not how the judicial system works. Like this is not normal behavior. Like this behavior, like this is an anomaly. But we're telling you, I'm telling you, I've been in prison, I've been locked up, I've dealt with correctional officers, I've dealt with the police. This is normal behavior. And when you're watching the video, you can tell it's normal behavior because there's nobody there alarmed to stop anything. So it doesn't matter what law school you go to, what you do, what kind of doctor you are, what doctor school you went to. When you work in these systems are put in place, are designed to function and serve a certain group of people. And it's not us that they're designed to serve. We have to accept that. If you don't accept that, you're going to keep going around in circles, thinking you can reform it.
And face down. He's then raised up, face bloodied, and punched in various parts of his body. Brooks was serving a 12-year sentence for stabbing his girlfriend. His attorney says his death is incomprehensible.
I was there with Mr. Brooks' son and his father and his brother. They all watched the video as well, and I think it was just the overwhelming shock. It was just felt so incomprehensible.
NBC News has not been able to reach attorneys for the 14 people under investigation, but the president for the Correction Officers Benevolent Association adding in a sharply worded statement, the egregious and repugnant action of the officers who committed this heinous and fatal assault does not in any way reflect the values of the vast majority of correction officers, including my members.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And that's what they're going to keep saying. They're going to go out there and keep saying. And what Breonna Joy Gray was saying earlier, until people get tired, until it becomes like you get tired of seeing this, the George Floyds, you get tired of seeing the Breonna Taylors, you get tired of seeing that sister that was in her own kitchen, had a pot of water, and the police shot her in the face after they told her to go cut the water off. You're going to keep seeing it over and over and over until it's acute enough for people to say, yo, we can't take this no more, that this system is corrupt. It's been almost 100. It's been over 100 years since Carter G. Woodson wrote *The Miseducation of a Negro*. It's been about 100 years.
Chairman,
what's up?
I just wanted to point something out in the recording because whenever they talk about us being murdered by the police, they always got to throw in our history of what we did to try to take away the humanity.
Yeah.
Oh, he was locked up for beating up his girl. That has nothing to do with him being brutalized by police officers.
I was just about to hit on that. That's the first thing they have to dehumanize you. They have to make sure he's in there because he stabbed his girlfriend. So there's going to be people that listen that like, yeah, he stabbed his girlfriend, he deserved that. No, you don't. No, he don't. He stabbed his girlfriend. They gave him 12 years. How many more years they want? That fake justice system, the corrupt justice system, gave him 12 years. So now, on top of the 12 years, because he stabbed her, he should get killed. They should be like, something is wrong with you if you believe that. There's something wrong with you, inherently wrong with you. You've been socialized to think as other human beings like that. There's something wrong with you, and people are good with it. And like I said, I'm not here to change your mind. I don't care. I don't care. I understand you've been groomed to be that person. So you believe that should happen because of what he went to jail for? It is what it is, man. Hey, I can't change your mind. But no, that don't mean people that we paying our tax dollars to fund should break the law and kill him. Break their own fake law and kill him. I don't agree with that. But they're going to keep trying to push that so they could divide the people. They could divide what people think.
Sufficient attention to the antebellum background of the Negro who, still under that influence, indulges in superstitious and religious practices which impede the progress of medicine among them. One would be surprised to know the extent to which primitive medicine is practiced among American Negroes today. Often in the rural districts, they seldom see a physician. The midwife and the herb doctor there control the situation. The greatest problem now awaiting solution is the investigation of the differential resistance of races to disease. What are the diseases of which Negroes are more susceptible than whites? What are the diseases of which the whites are more susceptible than Negroes? The Negro escapes yellow fever and influenza, but the white man dies. The white man withstands syphilis and tuberculosis fairly well, but the Negro afflicted with these maladies easily succumbs. The questions offer an inviting field of research for Negro medical students. While we hear much about medicine, law, and the like, their importance must not be unduly emphasized. Certainly men should not crowd into these spheres to make money, but all professions among Negroes except those of teaching and preaching are undermanned. All Negroes in professions constitute less than 2.5% of those over 10 years of age who are gainfully employed. At the same time, the whites find certain of their professions overcrowded, and some of their practitioners could not exist without the patronage of Negroes. Negroes, too, should undergo systematic training for those professions in which they've shown special aptitude, as in the arts. They must not wait for the Americans to approve their plunging into unknown spheres. The world is not circumscribed by the United States, and the Negro must become a pioneer in making use of a larger portion of the universe. If the people here do recognize the Negro in these spheres, let him seek a hearing in the liberal circles of Europe. If he has any art, Europeans will appreciate it and assure him success in forbidden fields. In Europe, it should be noted, the Negro artist is not wanted as a mere imitator. Europeans will recognize him in the role of an enlightened artist portraying the life of his people. As an English abolitionist said more than a century ago, the portrait of the Negro has seldom been drawn but by the pencil of his oppressor, and the Negro has sat for it in the distorted attitude of slavery. A new method of approach, however, is now possible. There has been an awakening in Europe to the realization of the significance of African culture, and circles there want to see that life depicted by the Negro who can view it from within. There is a philosophy in it that the world must understand. From its contemplation may come a new social program. Herein lies the opportunity of the Negro artist as a world reformer. Will he see it and live, or continue the mere imitation of others and die?
So that's chapter 16. I mean, it's there. Everything that we need to know, everything that we need to understand, it's all is there. Like, what else? See, this was written in 1930. We're in 2024. What else do you need to know to understand? We need our own doctors. We need our own lawyers. That we must produce these people. What else? Like, what did he say about that is wrong, that you disagree with, that you would argue with, that we need to produce these people? And we cannot wait. When you go in Newark, New Jersey, we got Rutgers University. When you go into that hospital, when you go to Rutgers University, those doctors that are in there working for profit. If people don't understand what we mean by institutions, that entire institution, that their institution is working off profit. They're not there to heal you when you get sick. We just read this chapter, and he's telling us if we want to save ourselves, we must produce our own doctors that will serve the people. That's an everyday job. That's working with the children every day, making sure they understand what their purpose in this world is.
Okay.
That's not going to go tell them to go vote. Somebody want to say something?
Yeah, this is Andy. I wanted to say that I understand the more and more that what you're talking about is a notion of our own institutions, and I agree. But I think that in order to really be accurate, we have to expand the idea of what you mean by our. It's not simply the black section of the population. The our is a class thing. I'll give you an example. There was a Canadian doctor, Dr. Norman Bethune, who left Canada and joined the Chinese Revolution and served as a doctor on the front lines and, saved the lives of the revolutionaries in the field when they were fighting this battle. So he was our doctor in the broadest sense of the meaning of the word our. That everything else, like if you're just making a moral appeal to, like I do this sometimes, I have young people that I know who are working in law or trying to become lawyers, and they say, what should I do? I say, go into civil rights law or go into immigration law, do something for the people. And they say, yeah, well, I could go into corporate law. And I say, no, do the other. And some of them listen and some of them don't. But this moral appeal is not enough. What we need to do from the acquired knowledge of Carter G. Woodson's era and everything that we went through in my generation is we have to come hard with a class analysis. And we have to, the class analysis has to incorporate the grievances of the entire black community, not just here, but in the world. That we have to have this international class perspective that is the broadest possible notion. And that the only way, let me just finish. The only way we're going to correct this system is to overthrow it and bring about a new system. And I believe in doing whatever we got to do to get there, and all the little measures we got to take in the meantime. But it's really important that we have a broader perspective of what liberation means than they did in the 1920s, because it was never fulfilled. It couldn't be fulfilled under capitalism.
Hey Andy, guess what? You're right, Andy. But you gotta if I was a comedian, right, and I went inside a room to perform in Beverly Hills, and I was a comedian, I went inside a room in Newark, New Jersey to perform. And, I'll be speaking to the room. We reading Carter G. Woodson. You're 100% right. Our issue is a class issue. I mean, it's class. God damn it. That's what Fred Hampton said. Mm-hmm. It's a class issue. God damn it. But but I'm reading Carter G. Woodson and what Carter G. Woodson was saying in his book, and he's really primarily directing it to the Negro. But when I say we have to build our own institution, it's the people got to build their own institutions. The people. It's the people that live in the communities. It's more, Newark used to be Chocolate City. There's more Spanish, Latino, I don't know what name they want to call themselves, how they want to qualify themselves. Like me, I want to qualify myself as an African. I'm an African in America. That's what I want to qualify my. So I don't know how the Spanish people that are here, how they would want to call themselves. But I'm telling you this, like, it's more Spanish people in North New Jersey now than black people. So if you're doing anything, it's along class lines.
Right on.
I mean, like, anything that you're doing is the people. When we say we need to build our own institutions, the people that are directly in the community, your next door neighbor, everybody in your community, you must build institutions separate from City Hall. Because even if they go to law school and they go for civil rights, all of this, they're working within that system, within that civil rights perimeters. They're going to work in the NAACP, all these goofy groups that have nothing to do with serving the people on the ground. They're only there as COINTELPRO organizations to distract the people, to lead the people the wrong way. That's why all the civil rights, whatever they call themselves, there's no civil rights organization that does anything for the people. Anything. They may do a little charity work here, but it is not going to change the material condition of the people on the ground. And let me play this video right here. Let me see if I could say this any more clearly. Well, let me see if he could say it clearer than I can.
Men and how black men created hip-hop, jazz, rock and roll, and the blues.
He's talking about Fat Joe. He's talking about Fat Joe and somebody else, the FB song. They're arguing. And he's saying when you go to Fat Joe page and you look at Fat Joe page, there's a record on there. There's something, an interlude or something to a song by Chris Rock. And Chris Rock is explaining that all this art, rock and roll, blues, all this stuff was started by black people. But it's a part that I want you to listen to here that we all need to accept.
The monologue says black men have created these art forms, and that these art forms were created by black men at a time when black men were enslaved. Only hip-hop is the only art form that black men created, were able to create, as free men.
As free men. Nobody's free. Whether you're in these communities, whether you're white, you're Spanish, you're black, nobody's free. We are not free. We go all the way back to the beginning when they told you the legal system, all this system is set up by doctorates to protect one group of people, one class of people. So we're not free. He can't say, this guy, Tim Black, that's on this station right here, that's talking. He can't say what he want to say up there. He can't talk about what he want to talk up there. They'll take his page down. You're not free. You're not allowed to speak the truth. You're not. I mean, and if he understood that, if he was politically aware enough to understand that we are not free. None of us are free. If he understood that, his show would be off. And if I was in front of him talking to him, I would tell him the same thing. When are we free? When were we free? What is freedom? If his freedom is the ability to control and dictate your own future, we've never been free. We're still not free. We don't control nothing. All these institutions function to help the imperialists. And the only way to defeat them is by walking away from the institutions and building your own. Period. Period. But we're not free. You're not free to say what you want on TV, watch whatever you want to watch, put up there whatever you want to put, stories you want to put up there. You're not free to put up, you can't put out nothing on Netflix that's really about revolution. You can't put nothing, they're not going to show you none of that stuff. They're not going to show you nothing revolutionary. Everything that you get is signed off by the people that created and maintained those institutions. And the only way to defeat them is by the people defeating them. Because those institutions are there to control the people, to control you and I. But if we walk away from those institutions and we start to organize together, we can defeat those institutions. Because if nobody goes down to City Hall is dead.
Chairman, someone asked in the chat, what is freedom?
But what you call it? Somebody put, what is freedom?
Yeah, what is freedom?
Freedom is the ability to choose your own destiny and go get that destiny. But when you're raised, when you're born, and you're going to school from kindergarten and you're being brainwashed, you're not free. When they control what you can see, when they control what you know, what you think, what you learn, what schools you could go to, where you can work at, you're not free. You can't go nowhere without a passport. You can't just get up and go to another country. You can't just get up and move. You can't get up and do what you want to do. You're not free to do nothing. You're free to do exactly what they need you to do to maintain their system. That is what you're free to do.
That's right.
I mean, so we could all sit around here and say like, yeah, I'm free, I'm able to do this, I'm able to. You're not able to do nothing. You're only doing what they allow you to do. And when you start to build your own institutions, that is where you gain freedom at. Because you teach your children what you want to teach them. You teach them what their purpose in life is, who they are, where they come from. Not to teach them to just work their whole lives. Work, work, work to pay bills. You just work to pay bills until you can't work no more, and then you die. And then your children work for another master.
It's a vicious cycle, my brother.
Yes, it is. It's a cycle, over and over. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to say this. I agree with it. What you're saying. I also, just to let you know, I'm one of your fellow podcasters here on this network. So I'm on Monday nights and Friday nights at 6. And I just want to let you know, I've been talking a lot about community, what the strength is coming together. You know, don't have to like each other to work to accomplish something together. You just got to work together to get it accomplished. And this is what every other culture does. They do this. And this is why they don't have the problems in their communities. And I brought out the example over in the city of Manhattan, in the Village. Them people got together over in the Village, and they turned the Village into a co-op. And they registered that as a co-op. Now, they get benefits from the city for that. That whole area get benefits from the city, I guess, every quarter or something like that. They get a check that goes into their bank account that works for the people in that community. And they got a whole lot of other stuff going on. They got their own security force. They got people that clean up their sidewalks and shovel and all of that stuff. They got all of that stuff. They got now with the garbage, you know, yeah, the city got that contract. But anything else they need, they pretty much self-sufficient.
Oh,
and what you were saying makes a lot of sense. And the thing is, with our people, it seems that we always want to get notoriety. We want to be the ones to have discovered it first and be recognized. Like, you know, I'm the one. I'm the one. You know what I'm saying? It's never like, okay, I got this. Let's all take a look. Let's all dig into this. Let's all see what perspectives we get from this. It's not like that with us for some reason. And we stuck on our old habits, you know. And just to end, I'll say this. I was listening to the comedian George Carlin, and I remember him standing up on stage telling the truth. He told everybody in the audience, he said, listen, all of this was BS. None of this is real. They don't give a damn about you. The laws are not made for you. They're made to control you. And he ran down a whole list of everything for about a good 2 minutes. And at the end of that, you know, everybody laughed.
Yeah.
And they told him, they said, George, we like you. So we're going to let you go ahead and tell the people the truth. But you're a comedian. You're supposed to make people laugh. So when you finish, people are going to laugh. So go ahead and do it, George. And George did it. He saw exactly what they said. The people laughed at what he was saying, which was serious. And he said, okay, there's nothing else that I can tell him. Because he put it out there. So with that, I'll rest on that. And I just want to say thank you for the time.
All power to the people. Hey, man, I wish I could have talked to George. I would have told him to help us build cooperatives. I'd have been like, George, you could go out there and tell them the truth. I mean, but like, we need some of that bread to build these cooperatives in the community, man. Real talk. I mean, cause like, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of them that said, like, what's his name? I used to like him too. Most Def. There's a lot of people like that. That it's like Ice Cube. All these people, they talk about like they're speaking up for the community, speaking up for the people. It'll come in these communities, and you get the people that live in those communities to cooperatively own that supermarket, cooperatively own that big department Walmart-like store in their community. You'll come organize the community to own these industries in their society, in their communities. And watch how much people will be thankful for that. Watch how much they will be revered for that. You see, but that will be the death of them. That means they can't go back to MCA, Universal, whoever these people or these companies that's been paying them, that's been pushing out their records. They can't go back to them. I mean, but I hope those people, I wish, and I listen to George Carlin too. He was a great motivator of mine. I caught him towards the ending of his life in the 90s. I mean, I remember he was in Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure. I remember I used to watch that when I was younger. I mean, he was in there. I mean, but we've had people that come out and tell us the truth. We have to be willing to accept it. And even Tim Black, man, like when you hear him, since we've been free, we're not free, bro. We're not free. And it's easy to think like we're free because everybody walk around, the politicians, the celebrities, everybody. They just act like we're free. And I be thinking about the Lion King, yo. This be looking at like the Lion King to me. Like, what if Simba never came back? So everybody in the Lion King would have just been walking around laying Scar to destroy the whole place. Nobody saying nothing. Everybody just walking around like everything is cool. Like you heard Brianna Joy Gray. We all know the game is rigged. But nobody's saying anything. Everybody just sitting there, just taking it in until like they can't handle it no more. And most of the time, the people that get to speak don't be us. They don't be us. Musa, you want to say something?
Yeah. As far as your Ice Cubes, your celebrity class that are supposedly telling the truth. And what you made a comment earlier. People could tell the truth all they want. Nobody's willing to commit class suicide, though. Nobody's willing to say, listen, the money I earned, this money is for the people. They saying, no, I got to take care of my family first, and after you took care of your family, your life is over, kinda. So you never actually
it's over.
You never took any steps towards what you said. So the words don't even mean nothing. So you could say all the truth that you want to say in the world, and your actions are something different. Your actions are materialistic. Your actions are self-serving. So when we talk about our celebrities that tell the truth, that shit don't mean nothing.
All power to the people. All power to the people. No, it really don't, man. Because we passed the truth-telling part. We here. Our daily lives, my life, my duty in the organization is work in the institution that we have set up in the community, like the after-school program, feeding the community, the transportation. Like this is the roles that I serve all day, every day. I work in those spaces. We're trying to show that we can create these institutions. If it's more of us, the institutions will be larger. But we have the institutions here. We can create more with the more people that come in and join and understand what we need to do. I mean, but we can't, nobody, like the brother just said, it can't be me. Nobody's going to do this by themselves. There's no one savior, one hero that's going to come here and come save the people. No, it don't work that way. That's why they always keep saying organize, organize, organize. Organize means waking up everybody else around you so they can liberate themselves. You can't save nobody, and I said that earlier. You can't convince nobody to do nothing. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. You could pay them, you could buy them, you could buy people. It's easy to buy people out here. You could buy people. Sometimes you could buy them for real cheap. But you cannot get inside their mind and make them do what they don't want to do. And I'm not that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to try to put these institutions in place. And that's what we do every day. And if you want to join, you want to help, yo, we here. We're looking for people to come help. Yo, we can serve the food and be at the after-school program and do the transportation all at the same time. We need people to help serve the food. Yo, wherever you at, if you in Jersey, wherever you at, yo, I could have the food delivered to you in your community, and you could serve the community that you're in. So we could try to bring your community in. We could have the food delivered to you. I mean, we working on creating a wider range, a wider network, perimeter for us to be able to get the food to. But if you're in North, East Orange, Irvington, Elizabeth, somewhere around, maybe even Connecticut, man, I would add some more money to it to drive it out in Connecticut. But the people need to eat. You can't help nobody that's starving. You can't save people that are dead. You have to meet the people's basic needs. And one of the basic needs that all people need is food. And we have food delivered. We have food. We will get the food to you for you to be able to feed the people in your community. And you could use that to try to bring them in. When they come in to get the food, you start to talk to them how they could come in to build the cooperatives in the community. How they can start going to the political education classes. How you could start your own school, your own after-school program. Whatever program you need in that community, you could start to talk about it. Yo, we here. We're here doing the work. We're going to be here every Sunday for as long as possible. You want to say something?
Yeah, also, if you have college-aged kids, we trying to draw that demographic in. College kids are starving on these campuses. They need food, too. They don't have jobs. They need jobs, too. They need housing. All these things. Those are our future leaders. So if you know anybody that's in college that's looking to help the community, we can help serve them, and they can help us serve the people.
Nah, because we're trying to build something here. We have college kids that are here that are part of our organization. We got accounting, we got economics, we got history, sociology. We got Gio. I don't think Gio here, but what Gio going to school for? I think Gio going to school for accounting too. I don't know what Una going to school for. I don't know what Gaby is going to school for yet. But the purpose of them going to this school, these college kids, is to go get that information and bring it back to serve the people. That's what we're doing here. And when you come back to serve the people, gain a cooperative, that don't mean you're feeding everybody in the community. You're not using your money to feed nobody. No, you're helping them take care of themselves. You're bringing that expertise back to come help them take care of themselves. But why are we doing that? Where did we get the idea from? Du Bois. Get the idea from Du Bois. Get the idea from John Henry Clark. In one of his books, he said that we must send our children out into this world. He said back in the day, like people used to see the Japanese people come from Japan, China, wherever, and they should be taking pictures with their little cameras, and everybody used to be laughing at them. Then they took them pictures that they took in their camera, took them back home, and they built bigger structures, better cars, and everything than everybody else. Better knockoff products, while everybody was sitting here laughing at them with their camera. He said they sent their people out into the world for them to be able to learn, to bring it back so they could go out and take over the world. And what they're doing now in Africa. You go to Africa, like all these places being boarded up by China. But people was laughing at them in the 80s and 90s when they was going around with their little cameras. They made little movies making fun of them. It's time that we get our act together. It really is. It's too late. It's too late to be arguing, to be begging, to be trying to assimilate. It's time to build our own institutions. Don't give me no money. I'm not asking you for no money. I say, come sit down, let's do it together. I put mine in. I'm not like one of these hustlers, these scammers. I don't even know their name because I never followed them. That come in and scam the community and take the money, put it in their pockets. And they tell people they're about to build. I don't know what they be saying. But in every step of this, you're the board member. Because nobody can liberate you. You got to liberate yourself. You're the board member. You're sitting at the table. But first, you got to understand this political science, this political education. You have to know the first duty of a revolutionary, because that's what you're doing. When you're changing the way you think, you're becoming a revolutionary. When you're learning, the first duty of a revolutionary is to be educated. You can't do nothing if you're not educated. If you don't know who your enemy is, if you don't know who already fought them, how they were defeated, you don't know nothing. You just coming in and do. Just coming in there just because you're there. Just because you. Everybody should listen to you. It don't work that way. I mean, but we about to wrap it up for this week, man. Yo, I love. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, it's Deb Matson. Hello, good folks. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Deb? Hey, man. Hey, look, hold on. Before
I knew he was going to do that.
No, hold up, Deb. Hold up. Yeah, I'm about to do it before Deb get on here, man. Hey, look, we was raising some money, trying to get some kids. The kids, you see, we didn't even have the video to show on here to get some kids some holiday gifts. Because that's what we're talking about when we say working in the community to be able to serve our community. You know, just imagine, it was some of these kids, we went into the hood, whatever, to give them their presents that Monica donated a night. I say Monica. First time we called it Monica the wrong name. Now I call her. Deborah gave us money to go. I'm not even going to say how much. She gave us maybe like 90% of the money that we got. 90% of the money that we got to go buy the gifts. And you should see these kids' faces when you come and when you bring them these gifts. It's like we don't just take it just because we celebrating Christmas. You're building a relationship with that child that every year they understand that you're coming there. Even if they get a gift from nowhere else, they understand the Black Panther Party, that the community. Somebody from the community care enough about them to come bring them a gift. Yo, it is huge. You should see their face.
That's nice.
You're gonna see the video, yo. And I want to thank you so much for helping us do that. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, anytime you guys reach out to me, I'm gonna figure it out, and I love doing that. But you all also know I'm not bragful or boastful. I'm not. I don't care about being shouted out or recognized for doing things. I do stuff from my heart, and I mean that sincerely. And if it made other children happy, like that's it for me. That's enough for me. And I appreciate you guys. And you know you can reach out every time, especially that I've dropped the ball this year. Everything just came up so quick, and I just have so much going on with all these evictions and getting people out their cars and trying to house people. It was just so overwhelming that, and now having my 3 granddaughters, I just had to take a couple of steps back for my own mental health reasons, and just to get myself together emotionally, because when you're a mess, you're not helpful to anyone. But I'm back, and thank God for that, and for you guys. So I have a quick question. So when you were, first of all, I put that post in the chat, What is Freedom? And it sent before I could finish, so I had to retype it. But I had put What is Freedom? And I think that would make for a powerful podcast in the future. So just think about that. But my question was, when you were talking about for-profit, like in the hospitals and such, I don't think for-profit is such a bad thing. Profit helps you roll over monies to be able to do more. So in what context were you speaking about, these institutions that are for-profit and it may not be good? I may have missed something there.
No, because like we're on chapter 16. But the institutions itself, all institutions in America are based on social economics. Every single institution. That is not by accident. That is by design. And any institution that is built on for-profit is going to work for profit. So the individual, the person that's coming in there to seek help, they're secondary to profit. So it doesn't matter if it's a hospital, whatever industry it is. Their first motive, their first duty is to get profit. I'm saying, Carter G. Woodson is saying, we have to get institutions. We have to build our own institutions that care more about the people than profit. So it's like you can't escape it. We live in a socio-economic world, in a socio-economic society. So every institution that we go into right now is for profit, unless we design So for the last 3 years, you haven't only given us resources 1 year for the present. I think you've given one other year before. Yeah, she helps with but no, but I want to say something about the So like us being able to bring those gifts to the to the community. That's an institution within itself. If it's done year after year after year, and the children know, like, the Black Panther Party, this organization, this institution is going to bring presence to the community, the people know that. That means you have built the institution. The institution is not for money. It's not for profit. You gave up the money out of your pocket. You didn't expect anything to come out of that. What if it was hundreds of us that was doing that? Thousands of us that was doing that. How can we serve our community better? You see, but the financial motive is removed. You didn't even notice it because you're doing it out of the kindness of your own humanity. There's no motive there for you to get rich from what you did. I mean, other people can be that way. I can be that way. Patients can be that way. Our kids can be that way. That is the only way we're going to build institutions that are going to take care of our people or the people. The only way. I don't see no other way. Because the only other option we have is the institution that's already been erected, that are in place now. So like we talking about this, whatever. We could build an institution just like we have an after-school program. We could have an institution in the community where we having kids, where we're teaching, medulla classes, whatever, what they call them, when the women that help women have children. Is it? Does anybody know what it's called?
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. I know what you're talking about.
The midwife.
Yeah, it's like a midwife.
Yeah, but like when Patience went to go have our children, when she went to the hospital, she almost lost the children because they kept telling her she wasn't ready. They kept saying she wasn't ready. She almost lost them. Why we don't have institutions in our community where patients could have went to somewhere in the community to go have the baby for free? We can do that. We have nurses. We have people that are able to do that. But it's being willing to give yourself and serve the community. We have to create those people. We have to create that mindset if we want to survive in our communities. And that's what Carter G. Woodson is saying. Nobody, we're not saying quit your job because you're on the plantation. We're not saying, we are all on the plantation. To be able to build the institutions we need to serve us, we must stay on the plantation. We are on the plantation. You can't just leave your job tomorrow. And no, we live in a socio-economic world. But that doesn't mean while we're on the plantation, we can't build the Underground Railroad. We can. We must. We can't just say the plantation is the only way and this is how we're going to be. We all believe the system is messed up. And the only way to change that is by building institutions that's going to serve the people. That's what people like Carter G. Woodson say. And like that's what I listen to. That's why we're trying to build the institutions in the community to serve the people. Like we didn't know Deborah. We never met Deborah. Deborah would have never saw us if she didn't see us. If she didn't see us doing the work on the ground. If we didn't set the example. Then she started to see us and like she looked, she noticed like, oh, they're doing that. But if we were never doing it, she would never see us. If you build it, they will come. I mean, like, and that's what we're following.
And that's true. That's what got my attention. Seeing how you were doing the best you could to help people. I tell people often, I'm not interested in anyone gossiping about anyone or someone is always in someone's ear. I pay attention to none of that, right? I look at actions. I don't pay attention to gossip and wording. And I've watched that for a while with you guys, and I'm like, as I'm looking to support different people, especially people that are helping our kids. And I watched it for a while, and I said, okay, this is something I want to support. And I'm happy to support, you know, and I will always support as long as I'm able to support. So I'm not into all that other messiness, everybody talking and creating friction and nonsense. Like, just focus on someone is helping someone else, right? That's what I care about.
All power to the people. Hey, look, it's not only one way. Yo, you have to reach out to us for us to serve you too. We're here to serve the community. We're here to serve you too. You part of the family. You in the village. You have to feel that way. Sometimes you got to pick up that phone to have the conversation when you need to talk. Like, that's what this is about. This is, like, we trying to build a real family here. Like, when you go to companies, they tell everybody, like, yo, this is a family. They have the little things, whatever, to try to act like everybody get along. No, this is not what it's about. Yo, I'm telling you, whenever, if you need us, I don't care, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Pick up that phone and call, yo. We pulling up. You heard me?
And I appreciate, and I am going to put this out there, I appreciate you guys calling me, checking on me. I was just like so pleasantly surprised. And I was like, wow, that was so sweet. Thank you for that.
Well,
I sincerely appreciate that.
I asked Patience, like, what's up with Deborah? Yo, Patience is like, nah, she said she going to take a little break. So I'm like, I'm going to give her like a week and a half, and I'm going to call her and see how she doing. But yeah, yo, whenever you need to talk, and this is going out to everybody, yo, hit we on Instagram, Facebook. Yo, our only purpose here is to reach out and meet you out there, because without you we cannot change nothing. We can't change our communities if we don't reach out to the people in the community. They're the only one that can change anything out here. I mean, so with that, I'm sweating bullets over here. I'm about to go take this hoodie off. If ain't nobody got anything, Muta, you got anything?
Any projects coming up? Anything you want the community to support?
I want to build in private. We're gonna let it go next year. All power to the people. I appreciate your platform.
All power to the people. All power to the people. Till next week, I live for the people. I die for the people. Where we go, patient? Right here.
And